Welcome back, Freelancers. Undefeated Rescue Unit. We're continuing with the Gear Showcase series. We got a decent amount of people in here. It's the weekend, so we're all having a good time. All right, let's head on to Bastion and show off some gear. All right, so back in the dungeon, GM1, and we are going over the Infernal Grenade, which the Masterwork, a legendary version. Oh, down here are the Explosive Blaze. So the Explosive Blaze is an upgraded Infernal Grenade. Sets enemies on fire. Hitting an enemy detonates a fire explosion. So it does about 5,000 damage, recharge of 11, radius of 4, and then it's a fire effect of 100. So starting from the bottom, fire effect, it's 100, which means they should be instantly, unless they're fire resistant or a fire elementalist, they should basically get primed almost immediately. And then let me take a look back here again. And then the radius is pretty average, nothing special about that. I just want to do some comparisons. So here it's about the same for radius. And then the recharge is also the same. The only difference is this one will actually do damage, which Cold Blood didn't do any damage. Plus it's a fire grenade, which denoted by the stat, so it will do fire tick damage. So as you can see, like there's that 10,000 damage that the initial hit, and then there's a 13,000 because it hit a target. So it's almost like double procting fire. So we'll see what it does against their shield. Took about half their shield, and now they should be on fire. So as you can see, they're getting tick damage as their health's just ticking away. I don't really have to do anything. So this is kind of like Binary Star. A lesser, weaker version of it, but this is like the Rangers version of Binary Star, if you're familiar with the Storm. Okay. So, we're doing pretty good damage in GM1. Let's see if I can get this whole group. No, I only got the one, actually. So, it'd be nice if its trajectory had a larger radius, but it's not bad. This is where it's going to be kind of punishing, is the recharge is at 11. So you kind of need to have, if you want to spam it, you're going to need a lot of charges. Like right now I got 0 charges, and this is a recharge build. Almost all my inscriptions are in recharge. But we'll look for a shielded enemy type and take them on. Actually, we'll go ahead and take the Storm on real quick. So it instantly took their shield down, and they're getting burned status effect from, or tick damage from the fire effect. Whoa. We'll see if we can find, here we go. So here's a shielded gunner. And it instantly kills him as well. The initial blast takes down their shield, and then the secondary fire explosion pretty much sets them on fire and kills them instantly. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and clean these guys up and find some armored enemies. Okay, we got some armored enemies here. We'll go ahead and test them out. So, pretty much the same thing. I mean, it's GM1, so they're not very tanky, but the reason they're going down so quickly is because of that double fire proc that basically is happening. So when I throw this, it explodes on fire, and then because it's hitting them, it does an additional fire explosion. And that's why they're dying out so quickly. Plus it's fire, so it's going to have that fire tick damage multiplier that weakens enemies. So we'll take on the Ranger. So it only did about half damage against their shield. They should be on fire right now. It looks like that took all of it just to take their shield down. As you can see, like I only threw one and it instantly took them down. So we'll go into GM3 and test it out there. And then at the end of the video, we'll kind of go and discuss some comparisons and some box check and some other stuff. All right, see you in GM3. All right, so we are in GM3. And we're still on the Explosive Blaze Grenade. So we're going to here and shield off. Okay. So as you can see, they're primed and it's doing the tick damage. So I can actually use this as a main source of DPS. So that's pretty fun to do. So when I say I can use it as the main source of DPS, what I'm trying to get across is it's more versatile than like Cold-Blooded. Cold-Blooded, when you threw this, it just froze them. It didn't do any damage. Where this, I do have a little bit of extra damage. I think I got 150 extra gear damage on it. But I can't believe that still hit me. But because it does so much damage, I can not only use it as a detonator, but I can also use it as a form of DPS. So I don't even really need a detonator. I can just stack a lot of damage into global and fire effect. Okay, so it didn't do a lot of damage against their shield. I used all three with ooh. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take down their shield real quick. Okay, so let's see if we can hit them real quick. All right, so we hit them, and they're burning. As you can see, it's not doing a lot of damage. This is GM3. It's just how it is. They're very tanky here. But as you can see, it's still doing the double proc damage and it's doing tick damage. Go ahead and detonate him real quick. Alright, we'll just go ahead and take him out because there's another storm over here. And then we'll move on to some shield enemy types. Nice. What? Okay. Alright, so. Wow, that was weird. Okay. Nice. So yeah, you can take down a majority of the grunt enemies just with a nade itself. You don't even really need a detonator. When you get into the more tankier enemies, you might run into some issues. Okay. And it combos really, really well. I'm seeing numbers of 180,000 approximately for combos, which is pretty, well, we'll just call it 120,000. Between 120 and 170. But we'll test it out on the shield enemies down here. So it took down one of their shields, and now that they're on fire, it's doing some tick damage. Let's see if it'll kill them on its own. And it did. It killed them on its own. So we'll go ahead and take down their shield real quick. Actually, okay. So this is something you just kind of have to deal with when you're going against enemy types that have shields and you're trying to use a primer, specifically one that you're trying to kill them with. Is they're going to have that where if you don't deal with their shield, they potentially are going to be hard to prime. And because they have the shield, it's not going to do that tick damage. So you really need to figure out a way and get something into your build to deal with shields. Okay. So hit them. You can. And because they're fire effect, they're always going to fall like that. And that's a good way if you want to deal with a storm that's flying around, is you can just toss a nade at them, and it will ground them momentarily. Where with ice, it would keep them in the air. Okay, I'm going to clear all these guys out and find some armored enemies. Okay. So we got some armored enemies running around. So go ahead and prime them. Go ahead and take, oh, well, he walked into it. But as you can see, they're priming, it's giving them tick damage. And because they're armored and it's fire, it's going to do a little bit more damage to them. We'll go ahead and detonate one of them. So yeah, we're seeing pretty high combo numbers too on them, whereas other ones we were seeing, okay. The only thing about fire effect, it seems, I don't know if it's just this grenade, I haven't tested it with other ones, truthfully, is it seems like their prime disappears a little bit quicker. With Frost, it seemed like it stuck around for a minute, so if that's something you're trying to do is get an idea. I don't know why, I think it's just this. And they're primed here, so man, he's taking down my shield right away. Unfortunately, I couldn't kill him with just one. And this is a kind of like an in-between one, but we'll get our shield back and then test out against the ranger. Actually, so it does about a little less than a third against their shield. So it would take quite a few to get them. We'll go ahead and take their shield down real quick. Try and take it down quick. Okay, shields down. Alright, so set them on blaze, and they are getting tick damage right now, so we know they're on fire, and more than likely they're primed. It does about, looks like one with the tick damage would do about a sixth of damage against them. And I don't think that, unless you have a lot of damage on this, you're probably not going to be able to take them down with just that. Oh wow, that's an interesting bug. Okay, so let's go over some box checking real quick. So is it is it efficient? So all the grenades have a charge of 11, and I can showcase that real quick. So pretty much all the grenades except for the sticky grenade have a recharge of 11, and they all do about the same radius, between 4 to 5. I think a lot of good comparisons can be drawn between Cold-Blooded and Explosive Blaze because they do pretty much everything the same, except for Cold-Blooded will freeze an enemy in place, and then Explosive Blaze will set them on fire and give them tick damage, and it does pretty good damage. So this is where I think they get separated. Is you can use, well, okay, we'll go on that into the viability portion. But yeah, I mean it's gonna be just as beneficial in this category as any other grenade, realistically. Arctic Tomb's just gonna be better than all three of them, or all the other two, as far because they're the only primers. So the only primers you have in here is Cold-Blooded, Arctic Tomb, and Explosive Blaze. None of the rest of these prime, they're only detonators or just random damage stuff. So Arctic Tomb's going to be the best one out of all three of them. But we'll go over that one in a different video. Right now, I just want to compare these two because I feel like I said, they're pretty comparable. Aside from one does damage, one doesn't. One freezes the enemies in place, and then their masterwork perks are a little different. They're both, you can use them the same. Like I could use them both in a melee build, but I mean that's where Cold-Blooded would benefit from a melee build a lot more than Explosive Blaze. And as you can see, I had a little bit extra damage on my grenade, just a heads up, so your damage numbers might not be as high. So is it efficient? It's just as efficient as any other grenades. So I don't want to compare it to something else in another gear slot because the grenades are almost all the same. And then is it viable? Well, this is where I would say that Explosive Blaze is more viable than Cold-Blooded. Cold-Blooded only does one thing other than its masterwork perk. It freezes an enemy in place, or a group of enemies in place. If it had a bigger radius, I might question if it's better, but I don't think it is going to be better because you can use Explosive Blaze as a DPS where you can't do that with Cold-Blooded. So you can do two things right now with Explosive Blaze. You can prime and target for combos, and you can use it to actually just do DPS, where if you have enough global damage and enough fire effect damage for your inscriptions, you potentially are going to be doing a lot of fire damage on general, so it could actually potentially not even need a detonator, potentially. It depends on your build. And then is it fun? Well, for me, I think it's fun. I enjoy kind of just setting a group on fire and then detonating them. I don't have to worry about accidentally throwing this grenade into a spawn point where if enemies spawn in and I use Cold-Blooded, I potentially freeze a group that's spawning in, which means they won't actually spawn in correctly. And if they do spawn in, they're already frozen, so you can't really do damage to them. It's kind of a weird spawn system with the game, but that's just kind of how it works. So freezing groups can be detrimental sometimes, depending on how well you time it out and how aware you are to it. Where with this, you can just throw it into whatever group. You can just kind of spam it around and not really pay attention and help your team out set up a bunch of combos or just set a bunch of enemies on fire. And there's only like one enemy type that's not going to get hurt by the damage from the Explosive Blaze, and that's going to be a Fire Elementalist. And even then, if it hits them, even though it's doing an explosion or a fire explosion, it's still doing an explosion, so they're going to take that explosive damage. So it's still gonna do damage no matter who you're throwing it at. So for me that's pretty fun because I can use it on a bunch of different builds. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Looks like a world event's going on right outside here. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if there's too much else to say on it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna end the video there and just say see you guys out in Bastion.